Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can start our session. Before we start our session for today, may I take this opportunity to give the floor to Director of the World Heritage Center for a few remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair. It's a pleasure to have you next to me. I have an announcement to make. I have now my Deputy Director. Mr. Larsa Elundu from Cameroon. Larsa, you would like to say a few words?
Well, thank you, Meshtil. I'm just saying that I'm happy to be back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can proceed with the deliberations of today. Allow me now, dear colleagues, to give the floor to Mrs. Al-Hassan from the World Heritage Center, who will present to us what concerns the Arab States region. Madame, the floor is yours.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, bonjour. Le texte relatif à ce point de l'ordre du jour se trouve en page 7 du document WHC 16 40com 10B, aussi bien dans sa version anglaise que française. Depuis l'adoption du programme régional pour les États arabes en 2011, la priorité en matière de sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel et naturel a été donnée aux pays en situation de conflit armé, à savoir l'Irak, la Syrie, la Libye et le Yémen. Dans ces pays, les besoins en matière de protection, de prévention, de conservation et de formation sont immenses et nécessitent une mobilisation humaine et financière sans précédent. L'action en faveur du patrimoine de ces pays consiste en un suivi régulier de l'évolution de la situation sur le terrain, une évaluation rapide des dommages et la fourniture d'un soutien d'urgence aux sites touchés. Elle consiste également en un important travail de réflexion sur la question de la sauvegarde du patrimoine dans une perspective de post-conflit, le soutien à la campagne Unite for Heritage, Unis pour le patrimoine, ainsi que de nombreuses interventions dans les médias internationaux sur la situation du patrimoine culturel endommagé par les conflits armés, donc dans un souci de sensibilisation. Du point de vue opérationnel, le Centre du patrimoine mondial apporte un soutien continu au bureau de l'UNESCO à Beyrouth pour la mise en œuvre du projet de sauvegarde d'urgence du patrimoine culturel syrien, formation à la documentation, à la consolidation, à la lutte contre le trafic illicite, et entre autres, et au bureau de l'UNESCO pour l'Irak, pour le projet protection du patrimoine culturel irakien. Des ateliers de formation destinés à des professionnels du patrimoine syrien, libyen, yéménite, portant sur l'évaluation des dommages, la conservation et les mesures d'urgence à appliquer aux biens du patrimoine mondial ont été organisés. Prochaine diapo, merci. Par ailleurs, nous avons organisé 2 réunions internationales d'experts, l'une à Tunis sur la sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel libyen du 9 au 11 mai dernier et l'autre à Berlin sur la mise en œuvre du plan d'action pour la sauvegarde d'urgence du patrimoine culturel de Syrie du 2 au 4 juin dernier. Cependant, je tiens à informer les distingués membres du comité que la réponse du Centre du patrimoine mondial au conflit dans la région arabe est bien en deçà des besoins. Nous pouvons qualifier nos actions d'actions pilotes, car l'échelle de la dévastation nécessiterait des moyens bien plus importants que ceux actuellement déployés. Prochaine diapo. Outre ce travail quotidien sur des questions liées à la sauvegarde du patrimoine dans les pays affectés par les conflits, l'unité des États arabes a poursuivi la mise en œuvre d'activités de formation et de renforcement des capacités, ainsi que de soutien aux États parties pour la conservation et la gestion de leurs biens inscrits sur la liste du patrimoine mondial ou inclus dans leur liste indicative. Une formation sur le rôle des communautés locales en tant que partenaires majeurs de la gestion et la conservation des biens du patrimoine mondial a eu lieu au Parc national du Ban d'Arguin et à Nouakchott en Mauritanie en mars 2016. Des missions de conseil ont eu lieu conjointement avec l'ICOMOS à la Casbah d'Alger en Algérie et à Bethléem en Palestine. De plus, 2 thèmes importants pour la région ont été abordés au cours de l'année écoulée: la sauvegarde du patrimoine naturel et la conservation du patrimoine urbain. Concernant le patrimoine naturel, une réunion internationale intitulée « La gestion du patrimoine naturel au service du développement durable, un défi institutionnel dans les États arabes » a eu lieu au siège de l'UNESCO en décembre 2015. La principale recommandation de cette réunion a été la nécessité de sensibiliser et de mobiliser les décideurs politiques et les communautés locales dans l'identification, la protection et la gestion du patrimoine naturel. Cette réunion a débouché sur l'organisation en février 2016 d'un atelier technique dans le cadre du processus en amont pour les sites de l'atoll de Sanganeb et de la baie de Dungoneb au Soudan, en vue du renforcement des partenariats scientifiques, des capacités de gestion durable et des bénéfices pour les communautés locales. Nous espérons continuer à soutenir le Soudan dans la gestion de ce site suite à son inscription par le Comité du patrimoine mondial à Istanbul. Prochaine diapo. Pour le patrimoine urbain, une conférence internationale intitulée « Rôle de la recommandation concernant le paysage urbain historique dans la sauvegarde du patrimoine moderne dans les États arabes » a été organisée au Koweït en décembre 2015. Cette conférence a démontré la nécessité d'améliorer l'identification et la documentation du patrimoine urbain, de développer des programmes de sensibilisation et de renforcement des capacités en vue de sa sauvegarde et de mettre en œuvre des projets opérationnels visant à sa conservation. Le Centre du patrimoine mondial a également fourni une assistance technique dans le domaine de la conservation urbaine pour plusieurs villes historiques du Maroc. Pour conclure, il est important de souligner à nouveau le rôle des partenaires du Centre du patrimoine mondial dans la mise en œuvre du programme régional, en particulier les organisations consultatives et le Centre régional arabe pour le patrimoine. Le Centre régional continue de fournir un appui important au patrimoine naturel de la région arabe, comme suite au cyclone qui a touché l'archipel de Socotra au Yémen, à épauler les États parties dans la mise en œuvre de la Convention et à sensibiliser les décideurs et le grand public sur le patrimoine mondial dans la région arabe. À cet égard, le Centre régional du Bahreïn et l'UNESCO organisent conjointement une conférence sur les musées des sites du patrimoine mondial au siège de l'UNESCO les 2 et 3 novembre prochains. Enfin, je me joins à mes collègues pour signaler le soutien important que nous apportent les bureaux hors siège, notamment à Beyrouth, Doha, Bagdad, Erbil, Ramallah et au Caire, dans la mise en œuvre de la Convention du patrimoine mondial et de projets opérationnels. Le projet de décision relatif à ce point se trouve en page 9 du document 40 comme 10b, dans ses 2 versions françaises et anglaises. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Thank you, Madam. We have to examine and adopt the third draft decision, 40com 10b3, included in section 3 of document 10b you have in front of you. In section 3 of document 10b you have in front of you. Mrs. Rapporteur, any proposed amendment received for this draft decision?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we have one amendment submitted by the United Republic of Tanzania, and we will have it up on the screens. The amendment takes place at the last part of the draft decision in paragraph 9. It reads, requests the World Heritage Center to present a progress report on the implementation of the action plan for Arab states that allows a comparison of implementation status with the approved action plan at its 41st session in 2017. And this is the only amendment that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the room on this amendment? Yes, Kuwait, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to add an article to the after the third point. We would like to remind the state parties of the importance of the Declaration of Unite for Heritage campaign.
Can you please dictate your amendment?
We would like to add a third point, that reminds the state parties of the importance of the declaration of the Unite for Heritage campaign that was announced during the 39th session of the World Heritage Committee in Bonn that aims to safeguard cultural heritage.
Any other comments in the room? Okay.
Bella. I'm sorry, this would be the point number 4, after point number 4, before the 5th point.
Tunisia, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Si vous permettez, j'aurais à faire un commentaire général en rapport avec le point 5 du projet de décision, et c'est à propos de l'établissement des entités nationales pour le patrimoine mondial. On ne dira jamais assez leur utilité et leur efficience pour une bonne gestion et valorisation du patrimoine mondial. Cela d'autant plus que dans certains pays en voie de développement, le bien du patrimoine mondial n'est pas traité de façon spécifique et différente des autres biens, tant au niveau du budget alloué que de sa gestion et encore moins de sa valorisation. Et autant que je sache, je n'ai pas connaissance que les pays arabes en soient dotés, en tout cas pas de mon pays. C'est pourquoi, et si le protocole le permet, je propose que le centre envoie une deuxième lettre en guise de rappel aux pays arabes pour les inciter à l'établissement de ces entités, car je trouve que le point 5 du projet de décision, qui commence par rappel à recommandation, est trop faible. Merci.
Any other state party that wishes to take the floor? If not, then let us go back and examine the proposed amendments. Let us start with the one from Kuwait. If there are no any views from this one, then it's adopted. Okay. Let us proceed. Rapporteur, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We're just trying to figure out the numbering of the paragraphs. Together with the new amendment just proposed by Kuwait, we have now up on the screens a new paragraph 4 that reminds the states parties about the importance of the Bonn Declaration adopted by the World Heritage Committee at its 39th session, Bonn 2015. Do we want to go with the word adopted? Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay, and this is the final decision that was just adopted. Thank you.
So we can proceed to adopt the entire draft decision. It's adopted. I therefore declare Decision 40-COM 10B3 adopted. Let us proceed. We can now examine and adopt draft Decision 40-COM 10B3. I would now like to invite Mr. Rossi from the World Heritage Center to present the part regarding the Latin America and Caribbean region. Please, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As indicated in document WHC 16COM 10B Part 4A, a number of activities have been implemented last year as direct follow-up of the adoption of the Action Plan for World Heritage in Latin America and the Caribbean region, adopted by the World Heritage Committee by Decision 38COM 10B4. At the outset, we would like to recall that 5 additional statements of outstanding universal value for cultural and natural properties in the region have been presented for adoption at the present session of the committee in the framework of point 8E of the agenda. The current situation for LAC being 113 RSOV adopted out of 116. Also, 5 clarification of boundaries from cultural and natural properties of the region have been just approved by the committee in the framework of the retrospective inventory exercise, point 8D of the agenda. As follow-up to the strategy of capacity building foreseen in the Sub-Regional Action Plan for World Heritage in South America 2015-2020, the Category 2 Center Lucio Costa has formally established on 26 and 27 November 2015 its governing board, thus accomplishing an important step toward its full functioning in close coordination with the World Heritage Center. Some months later, from 3 to 7 October 2016, the same Category 2 Center organized in close cooperation with the World Heritage Center a pilot training module on the fundamental concept of the 1972 Convention in Rio de Janeiro, gathering participants from 10 South American countries and 5 Lusophone countries from Africa, as well as representatives of the 3 advisory bodies and national experts. The workshop has allowed the adoption of a capacity building strategy with a set of specific modules which will be implemented in the following years on crucial aspects related to the implementation of the World Heritage Convention. Next slide. And among the diverse capacity building activity also nourished by the content of this new module and the recent strategy, we may mention here, as it will take place just next week, from 1st to 4 November 2016, a workshop of a sub-regional scope taking place in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, gathering representatives of a number of small islands, developing states of the Caribbean. As follow-up of the strategy for capacity building, again included in the Action Plan for World Heritage in the Caribbean 2015-2019, technical assistance has been provided to define and launch several activities now ongoing in Haiti, developed in the framework of the project Heritage Preservation and Support to Tourism Sector, financed by the World Bank. In spite of the necessary adjustment, namely in the schedule due to the Matthew hurricane consequences, those activities will continue to be implemented in the next month, the total duration of the project being of 5 years. As concerns the sub-region of Mexico and Central America, an important meeting of local points, focal points and site managers took place in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, on 25 and 26 August 2016, to coordinate the follow-up of the Action Plan for Latin America and the Caribbean. Next slide, yes. More generally, Madam Chair, technical assistance has been provided in the last months to the state parties of Central America, South America, and the Caribbean for the elaboration of a number of pilot projects in line with the Action Plan for World Heritage in Latin America and the Caribbean, financed by diverse extra budgetary sources, namely from Spain, Japan, and the Netherlands, that are already or will be soon under implementation and on which we will be able to report in detail at the 41st session of the committee. Information of other achievements can be found in document WAC 16-10B Part 4A, and this is all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have therefore to examine and adopt a fourth draft decision, 40-10B4, included in section 4 of document 10B you have in front of you. Rapporteur, any proposed amendment received for this draft decision?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Again, we have the same amendment submitted by the delegation of the United Republic of Tanzania. And this actually, can we have it up on the screens, please? This pertains to paragraph 8, which is the last paragraph of the draft decision, and it inserts in the same contents as we have inserted in the previous decision. It reads, requests the World Heritage Center to present a progress report on the implementation of the action plan for Latin America and the Caribbean that allows a comparison of implementation status with the approved action plan at its 41st session in 2017. And this is all the amendments that I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the room on this proposed amendment? Okay, I see none. Peru, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to express the gratitude of the government of Peru, especially to the team of the World Heritage Center for this report. And actually not only for this report, for all the strong relation that we have developed during the recent years that it's really useful for not only for the government of Peru, it's also useful for the communities and for all our interests in culture in Latin America, and especially in Peru. But we must express our gratitude about, first of all, that issue. And also, I would like to I don't know if I can ask to the delegation of Tanzania a point of clarification about this amendment. I'm not. I know that it was a similar amendment was approved actually in the last the draft decision. But I would like, if you can, I can ask you, what is the idea about to establish this comparison of implementing status, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I give the floor to the delegation of Tanzania to respond to the concerns of Peru.
Thank you, Chair. As my delegation was reviewing the progress of these reports, it was considered pertinent to make sure that the progress reported is in line with the approved action plans of the different regions. So we thought we should add this statement to underscore that importance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Peru, do you have any? Okay, thank you. Any other representative from the room? I see none. I therefore declare decision 40-10B4 adopted. We can now proceed. I would like now to invite Mrs. Anatole Gabriel from the World Heritage Center to present us the part regarding Europe and North American region.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Ainsi que les membres du comité le savent, l'Europe et l'Amérique du Nord a été la dernière région à conduire son rapport périodique dans le cadre du second cycle. Ce rapport a été présenté en deux parties. L'une consacrée à l'Amérique du Nord a été examinée par le comité lors de sa 38e session en 2014. La seconde, couvrant l'Europe, a été examinée par le comité lors de sa 39e session en 2015. Cette seconde partie comportait également le plan d'action qui a résulté de l'analyse des données collectées au cours de l'exercice et qui a fixé un certain nombre de recommandations à mettre en œuvre par les États parties de la région. Le rapport final et le plan d'action sont publiés dans la série des cahiers du patrimoine mondial sous le numéro 43.
Sorry, there is a point of order.
Est-ce qu'on peut revenir à la Merci.
Stop her. Stop. 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 There was a point of order. You have to say it.
Sorry.
Okay. I give the floor to Finland.
I'm really sorry, Madam Chair, to interrupt the presentation, but I would like to have it in English also. Thank you.
It's now working.
Okay, you can proceed. And now I think it's working. Yeah.
It's working now.
Yeah. Yes.
You have to restart from the beginning, Madam Chair.
Can start because the translation was not there.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Je vais donc reprendre pour que l'ensemble des délégués ait connaissance de l'introduction à ce rapport de suivi. Donc je disais que, ainsi que les membres du comité le savent, l'Europe et l'Amérique du Nord a été la dernière région à conduire son rapport périodique dans le cadre du second cycle. Ce rapport a été présenté en deux parties. L'une consacrée à l'Amérique du Nord a été examinée par le comité lors de sa 38e session en 2014. La seconde partie couvrant l'Europe a été examinée par le comité lors de sa 39e session en 2015. Cette seconde partie comportait également le plan d'action qui a résulté de l'analyse des données collectées au cours de l'exercice et qui a fixé un certain nombre de recommandations à mettre en œuvre par les États parties de la région. Le rapport final et le plan d'action sont publiés dans la série des cahiers du patrimoine mondial sous le numéro 43. Il existe également une publication des résultats de l'exercice destinée à un public plus large sous le titre « Le patrimoine mondial en Europe aujourd'hui, World Heritage in Europe Today ». Ces deux publications contribuent à mieux faire connaître l'exercice de rapport périodique en tant que processus de mise en œuvre de la Convention de 1972. En ce qui concerne les activités de suivi du plan d'action pour la région Europe, je demande aux distingués délégués de se référer à la page 11 du document de travail. Le plan d'action d'Helsinki a été élaboré par les points focaux du patrimoine mondial de la région en collaboration avec le Centre du patrimoine mondial et les organismes consultatifs. Il fixe les priorités et les objectifs à atteindre pour la fin du 3e cycle de rapport périodique. Afin de suivre la mise en œuvre des recommandations du plan d'action, une enquête de suivi, Monitoring Survey, sous forme de questionnaire électronique a été développée par le Centre du patrimoine mondial. Sa mise en ligne s'est effectuée le lundi 17 octobre, il y a une semaine. Les points focaux des États parties ont jusqu'au 16 décembre pour répondre au questionnaire. Cette première enquête couvre la période de juillet 2015, date d'adoption du plan d'action, à octobre 2016. Elle est destinée essentiellement à fournir des données de référence permettant de mesurer les progrès effectués par la suite au cours de cycles prévisionnels de 2 ans. Les premiers résultats de cette enquête de suivi seront présentés au comité lors de sa 41e session en 2017. Des activités organisées par les États parties depuis l'adoption du rapport ont d'ores et déjà contribué à mettre en œuvre les recommandations du plan d'action d'Helsinki. Certaines ne figurant pas dans le rapport écrit puisqu'elles ont eu lieu depuis la tenue de la 40e session du comité à Istanbul en juillet dernier. Je vais donc mentionner juste les activités additionnelles. La plupart de ces activités concernent l'amélioration des systèmes de gestion des biens du patrimoine mondial et le renforcement des réseaux d'échange d'expertise. En ce qui concerne les réseaux d'expertise, il faut noter la fondation en septembre 2016 à Thingvellir, site du patrimoine mondial en Islande, de l'Association nordique des biens du patrimoine mondial. Il faut noter aussi que la 2e réunion des associations européennes du patrimoine mondial s'est tenue la semaine passée à Ségovie en Espagne. Organisée par le groupe espagnol des villes du patrimoine mondial, elle a fait suite à la première réunion d'octobre 2015 à Strasbourg, à l'invitation de l'Association des biens français du patrimoine mondial. La troisième réunion est prévue en Allemagne. J'ai plaisir à constater, Madame la Présidente, la présence dans la salle de nombreux de ces points focaux, gestionnaires de sites qui ont contribué à l'organisation de ces réunions. En ce qui concerne les recommandations relatives au renforcement des compétences interdisciplinaires des gestionnaires de sites en matière de prévention et de gestion des risques, je souhaite souligner, outre la conférence sur les facteurs de risque de la République tchèque, en paragraphe 5 du document de travail, du rapport, je souhaite souligner donc celle organisée par le Portugal à Lisbonne du 3 au 5 novembre prochain, dont le titre est « Patrimoine culturel, préparation au risque de catastrophe, réponse et reconstruction ». Cultural Heritage, Disaster Preparedness, Response and Recovery. Diapositive suivante. En ce qui concerne les activités de suivi pour l'Amérique du Nord, les points focaux du Canada et des États-Unis ont déjà soumis en 2016 un rapport de mise en œuvre des recommandations établies par leur plan d'action sous-régional. Ce rapport d'étape souligne les progrès accomplis dans les 5 domaines identifiés qui sont présentés à l'écran. J'espère qu'ils sont visibles pour toute la salle. Le rapport d'étape souligne également que les États parties partagent de manière régulière toutes les informations pertinentes relatives à ces 5 domaines et organisent à cette fin des réunions bilatérales. On peut mentionner par exemple en 2016 une réunion d'experts sur la révision de la liste indicative des États-Unis d'Amérique. En outre, en ce qui concerne la recommandation du plan d'action sur les listes indicatives de cet État partie, il faut signaler un travail en amont effectué par l'ICOMOS à la demande de l'État partie et la rédaction d'un rapport d'évaluation sur un certain nombre de sites susceptibles de pouvoir figurer sur la liste indicative des États-Unis d'Amérique. Le projet de décision 40COM10B5 relative à la région Europe et Amérique du Nord se trouve page 14 dans la version anglaise du document et page 11 dans la version française du document. Je crois qu'il y a une petite erreur de page. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much. We can now proceed to examine and adopt the fifth and last draft decision 40COM 10B5, included in section 5 of document 10B. Rapporteur, any proposed amendment received for this draft decision?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, we don't have any amendments for this draft decision. Thank you.
Okay, I give the floor to the representative of Portugal. You have comments on this?
Thank you, Madam President, and a very good day to you. Let me address these recent presentations as a whole. We thank the World Heritage Center for the very fruitful work concerning the periodic reports. It is indeed undeniable that these reports have become one of the most important sources of information for better managing and preserving World Heritage sites. It seems to us that the improvement of Objective 4, in order to embrace not only regional cooperation but also exchange mechanisms among national and local levels, is of great importance to further strengthen synergies and afford improved efficiency. We believe that more attention should be given to this issue by all stakeholders. On the other hand, Madam President, the dissemination of more World Heritage good practices, as we saw in Istanbul in relation to the state of conservation of Fujisan in Japan, would help all stakeholders to better address World Heritage issues. More specifically, Madam President, where the Europe and North American region is concerned, we would like to stress the importance of the Helsinki Action Plan. We congratulate the Secretariat for developing a user-friendly electronic tool that significantly facilitates our work. And I'm glad to mention that it has already been shared among World Heritage managers in Portugal and that they find it very useful indeed. We look forward for the global evaluation of its results that will be presented in Krakow. Madam President, let me also underline the number of important meetings that were mentioned in the report by the Centre, namely those that have to do with European Heritage Associations, and also I wish to thank the Centre for having mentioned the conference that will take place in Lisbon about heritage in danger areas. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Finland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think most of the issues were already addressed by the Ambassador of Portugal, but also Finland welcomes the monitoring survey of the Helsinki Action Plan that was launched last week. The format is innovative and user-friendly. In this regard, we thank the Secretariat for a very useful side event on this item in July in Istanbul, and we are looking forward to discovering the progress at the first 44th session of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Turkey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to start our remarks by appreciating the efforts of the World Heritage Center all through the periodic reporting exercise. The launch of Helsinki Action Plan Monitoring Survey, which will provide the basis for a more effective monitoring of periodic reporting exercise, is one of those remarkable efforts. As known, the credible tentative lists and nominations is one of the priority areas of the region, as also specified in Helsinki Action Plan. As ranking the first among the state parties with the highest number of properties on the tentative list, Turkey is also of high concern about the credibility and effectiveness of the tentative list and nominations. An academic study which examines Turkey's tentative list in the context of the Convention's aims and the gap analysis was recently published in one of the national academic journals. In this study, the properties are graded on the basis of their compatibility to gap analysis, definition of their outstanding universal values, as well as their responses to management requirements. The motive behind this study lies on the national requirements as to definition of policies for a more balanced and compatible tentative list. This study can also be regarded as a part of periodic reporting exercise at national level. Now, a program is on the way to be scheduled in order for methodology and the results of this study will be carried a step forward with participation of related authorities. Considering that periodic reporting exercise is also a tool for increasing collaboration among state parties, we would like to hear more about similar experiences of other state parties in implementation of the action plan. Turkey is of the view that regional meetings should not be limited for preparation of periodic reports, but different strategies of state parties for integration of the results of this exercise into the national policies should be presented and shared as well. In this regard, continuation of organization of regional meetings for in-depth presentations and discussions would contribute to this aim, as well as to the 5C strategies of the Convention. Although there is no any proposal for amendment submitted to the Secretariat until now, we see the need for a slight revision in the 5th article of the draft decision referring to be launched on October. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much for very concrete remarks and recommendations that you have made. Now we proceed to the draft decision.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could I ask the delegation, the representative from Turkey, to exactly pinpoint which part of the article that you would like to...
The 5th article,
yes, the wording,
the
please.
survey foreseen to be launched in October 2016. It is already launched.
Okay, to respond to the survey launched in October 2016, would that suffice? Thank you.
Thank you, Turkey, for the amendment. Any other views on this? I therefore declare 40Com 10B 5 adopted. Dear colleagues, item 10 of our agenda is now closed. We can now proceed to the next agenda item. We will now examine item 12 of our agenda, which concerns the progress report on the policy guidelines document. The relevant document 12 is in front of you. I would like now to invite Mrs. Patier of the World Heritage Center to briefly present this item. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just make a very brief introduction to the document, to the working document WHC/16/40com/12, and the scoping study as such will be presented by ICROM. You'd remember that the matter of establishing guidelines for World Heritage, or for the implementation of the World Heritage Convention, has been discussed over a number of sessions, and it was at the 36th session in Phnom Penh when ICROM was requested to prepare a scoping study. An undertaking like that, of course, needed funding, and this task was made possible to accomplish the task after funding was made possible by the government of Australia. So last year in Bonn, the committee requested that the scoping study on policy guidelines be submitted for examination to the World Heritage Committee at its 40th session in 2016. I have to say that the World Heritage Center has worked closely with ICROM, and ICROM has also involved the other advisory bodies in the preparation of the scoping study. So this has been a collaborative work which will be presented by the representative of ICROM. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for this very useful presentation. Now, with your permission, I would like to give the floor to Mr. King of ICROM. Please, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. It is my pleasure to present to the World Heritage Committee the scoping study on the policy guidelines that was requested of us at the 37th session in Cambodia. To carry out this work, well, first of all, as was already mentioned, we would first like to thank very much the government of Australia for providing the funding to be able to carry out this scoping study, and also to be able to continue on with the work in the future in terms of developing the policy guidance document that I will be presenting to you today. Next slide, please. The scoping study, which you find in document 12, has 4 parts to it. The first is general background. The second, considerations on the relationship between policy guidance and operational guidelines. Part 3 looks at consideration of the existing policies, and Part 4 would be the methodology for moving forward into the future. Next slide, please. Now, why do we need policy guidance of some sort? There are many reasons for this, and I won't read all of these, what you see in front of you on the screen, but I think probably the most important aspect of the need for policy guidance is the need for promoting long-term consistency in the decision-making by the committee. Given the fact that the committee turns over on a regular basis, there's a need, as new members of the committee come on board, for them to be aware of the policy decisions that previous committees have taken in the past, and that would promote a consistency in decision-making over time. In addition, such a document would also give a better awareness to the general public and to professionals in the field and to states parties in general of the policies of the World Heritage Convention and also other United Nations policies. Next slide, please. So, in terms of a definition of policy, a policy, as we've defined it, is a set of ideas or a plan of what needs to be done in a particular situation, and that policy has then been agreed to officially by a group of people, by a business organization, by a government, or by a political party. In this case, obviously, it would be agreed to by the World Heritage Committee and the General Assembly of States Parties. Conceptually, policy and operation are complementary to each other. operation refers to how things get done, while policy talks about why things get done and what to do in particular circumstances. Having said that, however, these obviously do exist in a continuum, and there is sometimes overlap between what is specifically policy and what is specifically operation. So we have to take into account that overlap. Next slide, please. In order to inform our study, we decided that one of the things that we should do is look at how policy is formulated in other conventions similar to the World Heritage Convention. And so we picked 3 UNESCO conventions and 3 non-UNESCO conventions, and we examined in those 6 conventions how policy is actually formulated and how it is then presented, collected and presented. I will not go into the detail of that. You can find a summary of that in the working document. But we can say, based on the study that we carried out, next slide, please. That each of the conventions examined has evolved different approaches, and those approaches are specifically suited to their subject matter and the requirements of those particular conventions. And what we ultimately found is that there was no direct model that we could use as the World Heritage Convention in order to develop this policy guidance. And so ultimately our finding, having looked at all 6 of those conventions, was that the World Heritage System needs to develop its own approach, given its particular history, given the subject matter, given the audience and the available resources. Next slide, please. So now moving more into the substantive issues. The first thing that we discussed in looking at the issue of policy guidance was, in fact, a name. We wanted to have an accurate name, and we wanted to be able to convey exactly what it was that we were talking about. The words previously that we had been talking about were policy guidelines as sort of a parallel to the operational guidelines. But ultimately we felt that that didn't really reflect exactly what it was that we were trying to do, because what we are ultimately trying to do is to compile, to put together the existing policies of the World Heritage Committee. And therefore we felt that the word compendium might be better than guidelines. It is a compendium of the policies that the World Heritage Committee has developed over time. We also felt that that would be a better name because we were a little bit concerned about confusion with the operational guidelines. We wanted to make it clear what were guidelines and what was then just a collection of the policies. Next slide, please. In terms of the compendium, there were we posited 2 possibilities for how this could be collected. One would be just an index, and that index would just be a very simple list of all of the policies that have been adopted by the World Heritage Committee over time. But we felt that that really wouldn't be of particular value to the users. And so what we decided was the recommendation is that we actually have a compendium document which brings together all of the policies under one cover, let's say, if it's going to, in terms of physical cover, or online in one document, let's say, so that the committee members can actually look at all of the policies that have been approved by the committee over time. Next slide. And then, of course, one of the main questions was, well, what does this new policy compendium have? What is the relationship between that and the operational guidelines? We are proposing that the documents be separate, that they not be joined together into one document. But having said that, we recognize that the operational guidelines do contain some policy, and this is a result of the fact that since there were no policy guidelines in the past, sometimes policies were put into the operational guidelines. Policy statements have been put in the operational guidelines as a place to put them and make them clear to the committee. So those do exist. But at the same time, we felt that the operational guidelines at this point should not be modified as part of the development of the policy compendium. Nevertheless, we do feel very strongly that there is a need for a consistency check between the policy compendium that gets created and the operational guidelines. So at one of the phases of what we are proposing that a working group look at the operational guidelines and look at the policy compendium and make sure that they are actually consistent between each of them. And that should be an ongoing exercise of the World Heritage Center. Next slide, please. In terms of the proposed structure for this compendium, We are proposing two, although we're not actually coming to a real conclusion as to how that would be. One of the proposed structures would be to actually follow the operational guidelines, so that you would have a series of policies related to inscription, a series of policies related to state of conservation, to periodic reporting, et cetera. So that may be one way that we can organize this policy compendium. The second alternative possibility would be to follow the strategic orientations or the strategic objectives of the committee, the famous 5 C's. So in that case, we would have the compendium organized in terms of the credibility of the convention, a section on conservation, a section on capacity building, a section on communication, and a section on community. Next slide, please. Having said that, however, actually, before I go on, having said that, the problem is that many of the policies that are already existing overlap those categories that you saw on your screen. Actually, can you go back? Yeah. Many of the policies that we have already existing actually already overlap some of these things. So the policy on sustainable development, for example, may deal with issues of state of conservation. They may also deal with issues of inscription and other things. They may deal with conservation and credibility and capacity building. So ultimately, we feel that the structure will have to be determined once the policies are compiled and once a working group can look at them and figure out how best logically to be able to divide these into chapters. Next slide, please. In terms of the format of new policies, of course, if we're collecting the existing policies into a compendium, there will most likely be a desire to create new policies in the future. And so we've also made a recommendation in terms of what the format for those new policies, taking into account an aim, a purpose, the scope of the application, and then the various policy statements. But we also recognize that there's going to be a need for flexibility in that, because depending on the subject matter, the policies may need to take slightly different shapes or different formats. Next slide, please. In considering what documents go into this policy compilation or this policy compendium, we have to also take into account a series of issues in looking at those policies. The first one is that not everything that the World Heritage Committee has approved over the years is actually called a policy. There are some things that are specifically labeled a policy, but in some cases they're labeled strategies, in some cases they're labeled declarations, and in some cases they're labeled recommendations. But in all of those cases, there may be policy elements within those documents. So the question becomes, what do we include and what do we not include? There's also an issue of adoption status. In some cases, the committee has actually adopted a policy. In some cases, they've simply noted it, or they've endorsed it, or they've agreed to it. There are many different words that have been used. So one of the other questions is, if we're going to include policies into this compendium, we have to determine which ones actually go in there. Is it only the ones that the committee has adopted, or if they've noted it, does it still go in there? So we have to actually figure out which of these policies actually belong in this compendium. As I also mentioned, in terms of content, you do have a mix of policy and operation and action plans, and so again, we have to figure out which things go in there. And then finally, the fourth area, which I think is also very important, is case law. The committee has adopted numbers of decisions over time, which have never made their way into a formal policy, but when you look at the case law, actually do together sort of present a consistent policy over a period of time. So we also have to consider whether that case law, those case law decisions, actually make their way into the final policy compendium. Next slide, please. And you'll see here a list of, again, I will not read through all of these, but this is a list of potential documents that might go into that policy compendium. And you'll see, again, in some cases you have policies, such as the policy for integration of sustainable development perspectives into the World Heritage Convention. You have some, such as recommendations, such as the Historic Urban Landscape Recommendation, and sometimes you have declarations, such as the Budapest Declaration. All of those do contain some policy aspects to them, which may or may not be determined to be necessary to go into this policy compendium. Next slide, please. Next one again, sorry. And then, as I said, you have the case law examples, and these are just some examples of the kinds of case law that I'm talking about. So the issue of mining and extraction of natural resources is one that the World Heritage Committee has expressed itself on a number of occasions in the past. And so the question would be, is it useful for us to go into the decisions of the World Heritage Committee over time and extract those decisions and make them into a policy? You would also have the same thing for issues such as environmental and heritage impact assessment, the use of management planning and management systems, and transboundary and international cooperation. These are just 4 of the possible case law examples. There may be more, but these are 4 that we thought we would highlight to make the point as to what we're proposing here. Next slide, please. And then finally, the question becomes, what ultimately does this compendium look like? One possibility would be literally just to compile all the documents and put them into a common format. That would be one possibility. The second possibility would be to then streamline that document. That streamlining would involve highlighting mainly the policy elements of them, but probably most importantly would involve consistency checks amongst the different policies. Because I don't know that anyone's actually sat down in the past and read through all of the policies together, one after the other, to look and make sure that there is a consistency between them. So there is a need to ensure that if you compile these into one document, that there is a certain consistency. So that would essentially streamline the document. The third possibility would be to completely rewrite the policies into one single comprehensive document. The problem with that is that would be incredibly time-consuming and would probably take, I don't know, 10 or 20 years to actually be able to do that. So that may be something that the committee wishes to consider over a much longer period of time, and assuming that resources would be available. But given the resources that are available and given this would be a first step, we think that the streamlined option is probably the best option to go with. That is, collect all the policies together and just make sure that there's a consistency between them, but without changing the meanings. Next slide, please. And so that brings us now to the end, which is the implementation. How would we do this? Well, we've envisioned this as a 2-phase work that is carried out in 2 phases. The first phase would be literally to collect all of these documents into one place and to create a working group to ultimately determine which of the policies belong within this policy compendium and which do not. So it would involve bringing this working group together, looking at that compilation, determining if there are other things that need to be included or things that need to be subtracted. And then ultimately that policy compendium would go before the World Heritage Committee so that you, the committee members, could look at it and make your determination on that. The membership of that working group would include regional expertise, would include the advisory bodies, and would include the World Heritage Center. Next slide, please. And then a second phase 2 would then be the streamlining exercise. So once the committee had agreed that these were the policies that they want to have in the policy compendium, then the working group would then have to go back again and look and make sure that there's consistency amongst the different policies in such a way that they read as a coherent set of policies coming from the committee and from the World Heritage System. That streamlined work document would then be again presented to the committee for its approval, and like happened with the Sustainable Development document, would then go to the General Assembly of States Parties also for their final approval. Next slide, please. And then finally, just an issue on the cost. We did an estimate of what we thought those two phases would cost, and you see that up on your screen. And again, I believe that this was included in the funding that was provided by Australia. So there is the funding available for us to be able to carry out this work. And I think with that, that's the last slide, and I'd like to thank the chairman for giving me the possibility to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. King, for a very comprehensive presentation. Dear colleagues, I would like to remind you that we are also invited to examine and adopt the draft decision 40-12 presented in point 4 of the document. Rapporteur, any proposed amendments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we actually had amendments already submitted to us from the delegations of the Philippines and Turkey in Istanbul already, and we have it up on the screens for all the delegations to have a look at. It's just to make an addition to the existing paragraph 6 And it reads, requests the World Heritage Center to assemble existing policies and to convene a geographically balanced working group of natural and cultural heritage experts to review the collection of policies, taking into account the views of committee members through an appropriate consultation procedure. And so far, this is the only amendment that I have received for this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we can proceed. Are there any comments? There is a list of speakers here. We'll start with a representative from Portugal.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm slightly confused. Do you want me to intervene on we can support the alteration proposed both by the Philippines and Turkey, but I have some general comments. You want me to do them now?
Yeah,
or?
it's general comments.
Okay, thank you very much. I wish to thank ICROM for the thorough and very valuable work it has accomplished. It is indeed not only a first step towards the creation of the policy compendium envisaged, but will also allow to systematize very important information which is now dispersed in a large number of documents. We are aware of the magnitude of the work ahead for the working group which is to be established, and also for the World Heritage Center, whose expertise in this process will be fundamental to achieve the best results. We thus agree with the two-phased approach proposed, and also that the policy compendium should be a streamlined document in order to ensure a document that will be both comprehensive and easy to read. So, Madam President, to conclude, we are looking forward to seeing the first draft of this compendium next year, and I thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Korea. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Professor Kiondo. I will make also a general comment or observation. I have carefully reviewed the result of the scoping study report just presented by ICROM, and I'm very glad that the importance of longer-term consistency of policies is well identified and recognized. I am of the view that a compendium of policy decisions made by previous committees is an appropriate method to tackle this issue, as it is not always easy to travel back and forth in the immense volume of documents to identify these policies. Rather than a simple index, the Republic of Korea agrees with the proposal of having a detailed compendium of policies, which can be readily consulted and used. I also agree to the option of having initially an accumulation of existing policies and then go through the streamlining process as suggested by the study report. The Republic of Korea recognized the importance of such work, as it would have immense effects in attaining the consistency of committee decisions and policy directions, which would in turn produce better programs and activities for the conservation and management of many World Heritage sites all over the world. Therefore, Republic of Korea is very pleased to announce that funding from the already established Republic of Korea Funding Trust regarding the protection of World Heritage properties in the Asia-Pacific region is available to support the formulation of the policy compendium as proposed by scoping study for a period of 2 years. I do hope that this document will serve the future of the convention as an essential and very valuable tool. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Korea, and thank you for your proposal to support this process. Now I give the floor to the representative of Poland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Poland would like also to thank ICROM for the preparation of the scoping study and the Government of Australia for the financial resources that have made it possible. We have received the study with great interest, and we welcome progress made in developing the policy document very much. We do recognize a long-term consistency in approach to the implementation of the World Heritage Convention as a key issue that has an impact on its credibility. Therefore, a single document which contains and refers to policy decisions that have been taken by the committees and the General Assemblies over time is very much needed, and will be of a great help to the committee itself as well as to the state parties and other stakeholders. We fully agree with the proposal to prepare a policy compendium as it is proposed. We understand the rationale behind as well as the challenges in front of us. Nevertheless, we would like to suggest that the decision on the final shape of the policy document is taken after the compendium is compiled and examined by the committee. We also would like to thank for the very generous proposal by the Korea to support the development of the compendium. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like now to give the floor to the representative of Philippines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We thank ICROM for the scoping study on this agenda item. A compendium of policy decisions and documents of the World Heritage Committee can be useful reference for states parties. However, we'd like to point out some certain observations. First, documents that would be included based on the preliminary listing in the study vary very much in terms of their nature and scope. Some were negotiated by state parties, some were drafted by experts. Hence, we will need to look closely and discern whether such policies are indeed considered as universally acceptable by all state parties. Second, some documents may be very dated while the international context has changed. Some policies may be less relevant and could be revised or updated first before their inclusion in a compendium. Nevertheless, a question arises whether it would be appropriate for experts to recommend streamlining or alteration of texts that in some cases have been agreed by member states previously. And lastly, the views of the committee members should be taken into account in developing the policy compendium. Before the experts submit a draft, we would suggest consultations with committee members. Thus, our proposed amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. The Secretariat has taken note of your views. Now I would like to invite the representative of Finland to take the floor. You are welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Finland, like many other countries already, congratulates ICROM for comprehensive, analytic and clear scoping study that it has carried out with the generous financial contribution of Australia. The scoping study offers an excellent basis for further work and deliberations. The idea of having a policy document in the form of a compendium is a good one. Furthermore, the idea of including a case law approach to the compendium on the basis of earlier decisions of the committee is most welcome. This enhances the consistency of the work of the committee, where the weak point has been a lack of certain institutional memory related to many previous decisions and discussions that has taken place in the committee. The two-phased approach for next steps proposed in the scoping study is a realistic one. The role of the working group that will be established later will be crucial. Therefore, a profound expertise and a balanced combination is essential. The advisory bodies of the committee and all relevant NGOs need to be involved duly in the process. Finland is also interested in participating in the work of the group. To conclude with, the new policy compendium will be a useful tool not only to the World Heritage Committee itself, but also to all member states and other stakeholders like civil society in their deliberations related to the World Heritage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I invite the representative from Vietnam to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, distinguished committee member and delegates. Vietnam delegation would like to commend ICROM, World Heritage Center and involving organization for great effort in preparing the scoping study for World Heritage policy guidelines. We do appreciate the Australian government's commitment and financial support in launching the preparation of the paper. We strongly believe that this significantly important work which provide a comprehensive and systematic approach to policy and policy making process related to World Heritage Convention, paving the way to a policy compendium in a very close future. We have to enhance better implementation as well as the credibility of our convention in the international community. Vietnam delegation would like to express our full support for the important paper, as well as our willing to participate at the beginning step of the preparing the compendium, in which we look forward to nominate our heritage expert to join the international working group to review the collection of existing policy and other necessary work to formulate the paper. We think that this policy compendium will help us to better protecting and managing our World Heritage Site, and also help us in preparing management plan for our World Heritage Site. In Vietnam, we are now preparing the decree of the central government on the protection and management of the World Heritage Site in Vietnam. If our central government approves this decree, we will send to you for reference. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Vietnam. I would like now to give the floor to the representative of Angola.
Merci Madame la Présidente. L'Angola aussi se félicite de l'étude de cadrage portant sur les orientations de politique générale du patrimoine mondial. Et nous voulons proposer un petit texte qui dirait le suivant. Demande au Centre du patrimoine mondial de compiler les politiques existantes et de constituer un groupe de travail géographiquement équitable, composé d'experts du patrimoine naturel et culturel. Et c'est là où va entrer notre proposition, et d'impliquer d'une manière inclusive d'autres parties prenantes telles que l'ICOMOS, l'IUCN, les centres de catégorie 2, les chaires UNESCO. Et le reste, ça continue afin de passer en revue cette compilation des politiques générales. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Angola, and thank you for the proposed amendment. Now I would like to give the floor to the representative of Azerbaijan.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We thank ICROM for a comprehensive study and, of course, the Government of Australia for their generous support which made this study reality. There's no doubt that this study clarifies certain points and assists in practical visualization of future policy guidelines placement in the life of our Convention. Operational Guidelines is a practical document guiding us in implementation of the 1972 Convention. However, life evolves, our Convention and Committee face new realities, and in order to respond properly, they come up with certain policy recommendations and decisions, which is quite normal and even necessary. Their incorporation each time into the operational guidelines is not practical and efficient. In this regard, the idea of preparation of policy compendium with collection of texts of policies seems for us very reasonable. We believe that such documents should be supplementary to the 1972 Convention and operational guidelines and provide policy framework and consistency in the future work of the committee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to give the floor to the representative of Turkey. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. As previous committee members, we would like to start by thanking ICROM for preparing the scoping study with a view to outlining the framework of the policy guidelines. It's a well-organized document including reasonable recommendations with all alternatives. Turkey agrees that creating a policy guidelines document may help for a more systematic, cumulative policy and a strategic discussion. It may contribute to shape more targeted and consistent strategies and make informed decisions. As to the format of the document, although a compilation of relevant outcomes and decisions will be available effort to start with, we think that the following step would need to be rewriting of a more user-friendly document. It goes without saying that the document should include rather recent concepts that need to be incorporated into our policies, such as sustainable development and impacts of climate change. It should also clearly define the shortcomings and challenges that we need to address, such as ensuring a more balanced World Heritage List and the Sustainable Fund, among others. We would like to also make a remark on the issue as to what is to be included into the document. This convention is far beyond a statutory document. It necessitates improvements in methodologies, techniques, and expertise in heritage conservation. Therefore, the expert meetings and working groups organized within the framework of the Convention are the indivisible executive components of the Convention. They have always had some statutory roles for guiding or processing policy decisions. Their end reports are commonly grounded for further discussions and sometimes resulted in adoption of policy documents. Therefore, Turkey considers that all expert meeting results should definitely be reflected into this compendium, either as a policy where possible or as a technical perspective. Whether that document will have an authoritative status or will be a reference source should also be discussed in the course of its finalization. Last but not least, ensuring its consistency with the operational guidelines is also another significant aspect. We may also explore on merging the two documents in order to provide a compact and coherent guideline to be referred to in defining policies to implement the World Heritage Convention. For example, the format may adhere to the logical framework of the process, for example, pre-nomination, nomination, or post-nomination. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to give the floor to the representative of the United Republic of Tanzania. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania also notes with satisfaction the preparation of the scoping study by ICROM in consultation with World Heritage Center and IUCN, as well as a wider range of other stakeholders during this study. The United States of Republic of Tanzania, therefore, fully seconds the amendment proposed by a delegation of Turkey and Philippines, and further support the recommendation by a delegation of Angola to further widen the scope of stakeholder involvement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed, I would like to give the floor to the Director of the Center for a few remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think this was an incredibly rich debate, and there were many very useful suggestions which will help ICROM and all our colleagues here to proceed with the policy guidelines. I would like just to take the opportunity to thank very much the Republic of Korea to support us financially, and I would like to thank you very much for this cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we can proceed with the draft decision. Rapporteur, can you lead us, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we've tried to catch up on the debate, and we've incorporated the amendments proposed by the distinguished delegate of Angola onto the screen. But also, I would just like to recap on the discussion about the final results of the policy compendium to be reviewed first. So we would just, the Secretariat would just like to propose a slight revision to existing paragraph 7, which would read, also requests the World Heritage Center to submit the first draft policy compendium reviewed by the working group, as well as to report on the progress of work for examination to the World Heritage Committee, and we would like, and the Secretariat would like to just slightly amend the dates to the 42nd session in 2018 to make realistically the work possible to actually continue on in its essential manner. So this is an amendment that is being proposed to take into account the realistic timeline of actually implementing this project. So overall, we've got paragraph 6 amended. requests the World Heritage Center to assemble existing policies and to convene a geographically balanced working group of natural and cultural heritage experts, and to inclusively involve other stakeholders such as ICOMOS, IUCN, Category 2 centers, and UNESCO chairs, to review the collection of policies, taking into account the views of committee members through an appropriate consultation procedure. And Para 7 also requests the Center to submit the first draft policy compendium reviewed by the working group, as well as to report on the progress of work for examination to the World Heritage Committee at its 42nd session in 2018. And that is all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to give the floor to the representative of Angola. You have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. C'était pour donner notre accord sur le point 7, sur l'élargissement de la date butoir, donc à la 42e session et en 2018. Merci.
Very much, Angola. Now I give the floor to Ikrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, I'm wondering if the distinguished delegate from Angola would consider adding ICROM to the list of people to be involved in the working group, because although we did the scoping study, there would actually be no guarantee that we would be involved in the ongoing work if it's not listed. Thank you.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ikrom. Angola.
Pourquoi pas?
Okay, thank you very much for your consideration. Okay, any other comments from the floor on the proposed amendments 6 and 7? I see none. We adopt item 6 and item 7 of the proposed amendments. Now let us proceed to adopt the entire draft decision 40-12. It's adopted. Thank you very much. We can now proceed on to item 14 in our agenda. This one is devoted to the international assistance. And to this end, I would like to invite you to pay attention to document 14. I now invite Mrs. Patier from the World Heritage Center to introduce the item. Madam Patier, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. You'd all refer to document WHC 16/40-14, International Assistance. And this is a document which concerns a number of issues, and it's divided in several parts. Part 1, an update of the international assistance request received by the Center, the status of international assistance budget for the biennium 16-17. In Part 2, Part 3 includes an update of a very concrete matter, the implementation of international assistance from Madagascar. And Part 4 actually presents a report on the implementation of the revised timeline for examination of international assistance requests as requested by the Committee in Decision 13/6-14. Actually, the PowerPoint presentation that you see on the screen starts with this last part. And it starts with this last part because we have been requested, the committee has requested the Secretariat to report to the committee on the implementation of this new timeline. Actually, this new timeline that you see on the screen was adopted in 2012 through a revision of the operational guidelines, and at this time, a one-year cycle for international assistance was proposed or established with one single timeline, 31 October, and only 2 panels per year, a main panel in January and, if we can call it this way, a catch-up panel in April. Those of you who have been around for a longer time, and there are many such people among you, they would remember that the international assistance had a 2-year cycle. So that was the main change, and within this new time frame, all requests for a given year are being assessed the same day, and there is the same approach that is being applied more consistently, thus guaranteeing more fair treatment and equal treatment. Basically, that was the purpose of this change, as the new timeline was conceived as means of ensuring a fairer and more equitable distribution of international assistance while respecting the priorities which have been set by the committee. So this new timeline had to be implemented on an experimental basis until 2016, and the report was due at the 40th session, and basically this report is included in the document you have in front of you. Next slide. The new unique deadline has entailed, actually, no significant change in the type of the states parties that are submitting international assistance requests. Mostly these concern developing countries, least developed countries, and so on. But over 4 years, there has been a 43% increase in the number of requests received and examined. And possibly, we believe that this is related to the new unique deadline, which is widely publicized through circular letters sent to the states parties every year. Next slide. The new timeline did help prioritization, especially in the context of a very reduced international assistance budget between 2012 and 2015. As you can see on the screen, the main result is that priority requests from priority countries constitute now the overwhelming majority of the requests received. You can see the difference and the comparison between the 2009 and 2012 and the period which follows immediately after. Overall, the new timeline works well and has contributed significantly to streamlining the process and making it more efficient and fast. Nevertheless, it has not become the funding become more, but there is still not enough funding for all requests, especially in the second year of the biennium. As you can see, 3 in 2013 and 7 in 2015 requests which have not, could not have been funded. There is also one which could not be funded in 2016. But here, the actual issue, as I said, is not the timeline and not the mechanism, it's the amount of funding, the budget which is available for funding and not the timetable as such. Next slide. So this covers the report and the outcomes of the analysis of the implementation of the timeline. And now briefly, let us touch upon the international assistance requests approved in 2016 and what was their status on the 15th of July 2016. Concerning the funding, the situation has not changed since July, so there has been no update on this. The percentage of funds remaining for 2017 is what we can say reasonable. In French, we would say correct, for conservation and management assistance. It's 68%, but it's lower for preparatory assistance. It means that, once again, there might not be sufficient funding, at least in the case of preparatory assistance. Now, this is something that has not been presented so far, but it has been present on the World Heritage website for the last, I would say, months or two. Those that have participated in the ad hoc working group, where the Secretariat has been invited to attend and to provide technical details where necessary, we have already brought to the attention of the ad hoc working group the idea to put online the so-called marketplace for international assistance. What does it mean? Actually, it means, and as I mentioned before, over the years, there are projects which are being examined by the panel, which are being recommended for approval, but which have not been funded due to lack of funds. That is, these are very clear projects presented by states parties to the convention, which actually we suggest to make available, and they are available, their descriptions, for donors and other states parties which are interested to contribute to the implementation of the convention in different states parties which have presented projects. And this is what you see is a snapshot of the web page of the World Heritage Center. It is also visible, what you see there is also visible on the International Assistance homepage. And this marketplace presents to potential donors these non-funded assistance requests. So we would like to invite all of you and of course other donors and stakeholders to visit the web page of the center so that you could possibly find projects where you're interested to invest in and in this way contribute to improving the implementation of international assistance. Currently, you have 4 requests that could not be approved because of lack of funding, and you can see 2 examples on the screen. That's a conservation and management assistance request from Chile for risk preparedness, and a preparatory assistance request from Mongolia. This is, as we mentioned, just the first step, and we shall be looking further into developing this mechanism. Let us look at the next slide, which actually gives an idea about the additional funding for international assistance. As can be seen on the chart, the additional funds that have been provided by states parties and donors for international assistance have allowed for a substantial number of international assistance requests to be funded over the years. And the average amount approved per biennium from 2010 to 2015 on the basis of additional funding is $265,500 US, which is a rounded figure. And there is no doubt that such funds have been very useful because 33 requests would not have been approved without such funding. You see who have been the main contributors with additional funds for international assistance, and over the years these include India, Italy, Korea, that's a specific partnership projects, Finland and Turkey, which you'll see on the next slide, because on this one you see only the countries where the funds of which have already been used to fund international assistance requests. Unfortunately, as useful as it is, additional funding for international assistance, it is not a reliable source of funding in the sense that it's not predictable in all cases, and it's very uneven over the years. As can be seen on the chart, there are 4 years when almost nothing at all was received, and the amounts received vary greatly from one year to another. On the next slide, you'll see the evolution of the 3 main components of the World Heritage Fund: advisory bodies, international assistance, and other items. And the issue here is the structure of expenditure under the World Heritage Fund, with the constant decrease of funding made available for international assistance, especially for the last 50 years. That's, I think this chart speaks for itself. And to finish this presentation, Madam Chair, let me recall that the system of international assistance has been at the core of the World Heritage Convention in 1972, when the convention was adopted. It is in the preamble, it is in Article 7, and they make it very clear as to what international protection means within the convention. Altogether, to highlight the importance of international assistance, you may have a look at it at this last slide. In total, 10 articles of the convention explain and organize the international assistance scheme. Actually, it is the most extensively regulated process by the convention, and therefore we have only a minimum flexibility for its implementation. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Patier. Now we can proceed to the draft decision. Rapporteur.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For this particular item, we have one amendment that has been submitted by the delegation of Zimbabwe. And it's an insertion of a new paragraph at the end of the draft decision. Paragraph 8 would read, encourages the World Heritage Committee to further broaden the scope of possible funders by also engaging organizations that include Category 2 centers for cost-sharing partnerships. And this is the only amendment that I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rapporteur. Now I would like to invite Finland, representative of Finland, if you can take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you allow, we would make a short overall statement of this issue first. Thank you. Finland thanks the Secretariat for the report and shares the concern over low levels of international assistance budget available. We warmly support the marketplace practice for unfunded requests and encourage sharing that information widely, as we see in their website, and so that not only governments but private sector and other potential donors and organizations can see the funded needing projects. As it was mentioned in the presentation of the Secretariat, these kind of innovative initiatives were also discussed during the ad hoc working group meetings with the Secretariat. The discussion on how to improve the overall financial situation of the Convention will certainly proceed should the mandate of the ad hoc working group be extended under the item 13A. Finland supports the draft decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to invite the representative of Zimbabwe to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We thank the Secretariat for the report and also share your concern for the diminishing resources available for international assistance. As a region, we believe that international assistance will go a long way in ensuring that we have a geographic represented list, as most of the countries in our region are requesting support in order to prepare nominations. We therefore support the proposal for a marketplace, to ensure support is generated from other donors. We, however, request that a clear mechanism be developed to ensure equity and fairness in accessing resources mobilized through the initiative of the marketplace. We also encourage that the World Heritage Center looks at international assistance in the form of technical assistance, not just financial assistance, particularly in the development of nominations. There are quite a number of examples where technical assistance was given to countries in the region to develop nominations. So sometimes it's not money that we are looking for, we are also looking for technical support. And also that's why we propose the addition to the decision to really develop partnerships with other Category 2 centers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to invite the representative of Philippines to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Like others, we reaffirm the importance of promoting international assistance as a core function of the convention in the committee. We lament the lack of funding for strengthening international assistance. However, on the particular proposal for a marketplace webpage to attract donors, we would have should have a better understanding of this if this was presented to the ad hoc group, and the ad hoc group should have had sufficient time to really discuss this. That is what we would have preferred. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to invite the director of the center to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I very much welcome the comments by Finland and also by Zimbabwe that we need to do more for a geographically and typology-based representative World Heritage List. And in terms, to answer the question from Zimbabwe, in terms of technical assistance, this is of course continuing with the advisory bodies and the World Heritage Center. There are many capacity building workshops which focus on outstanding universal value and other issues related to the preparation of nomination, and we and my colleagues also from the Secretariat and the field office will continue to provide that. I understand also the comment from the Philippines, but we try over the years to find the funding for specific projects, so this is just the marketplace is another way to do it. If we saw that a proposal was not financed before, we tried also through other means. So, but we are happy to discuss this further. Madam Chair, I just have one question to you, not only as chairing the session at the moment, but as chairing the budget group. My question back to Zimbabwe would be, is this paragraph well placed here, or should this go under item 15? So I give the question back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. This item number 8 is something that can go to item 15, in my opinion. It's about the budget, the funding for the activities of the center. So if Zimbabwe wouldn't mind, we can take it up in the budget working group. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will go along with your proposal.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments? I see none. I declare decision 40-14 adopted. Thank you very much. We can now proceed with the next item. The next item, 13B. Dear friends, as you know, the General Conference at its last session invited all intergovernmental programs, committees, and organs of the Convention to inscribe an item on the agenda concerning the follow-up to the recommendations of the external auditors with a view to improve their governance by concrete measures. You will recall that I have informed you of the inscription of such an item on our agenda by circular letter dated 5th May 2016. Document 13B is in front of you, contains all the relevant information on this matter. In this regard, allow me to invite Mrs. Rossler, Director of the World Heritage Center, to briefly present this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. As you know, item 13B concerns the governance, and as you have mentioned, the General Conference in November 2015 confirmed the need for holistic and comprehensive reform of UNESCO, particularly of its governing bodies, in order to ensure greater effectiveness and efficiency in governance and to improve strategic decision-making in the organization. In this regard, it established an open-ended working group on governance, procedures and working methods of the governing bodies of UNESCO with a mandate to examine the governance, procedures and working methods This working group will aims at providing a set of recommendations. In this context, the General Conference invited all intergovernmental programs, committees and organs of the conventions to inscribe in 2016, if feasible, an item on their agenda concerning the follow-up to the recommendations of the External Auditor's report contained in General Conference Working Document 38C23 to improve their governance by concrete measures and to report on their proposals to the chairperson of the open-ended working group. Consequently, this item is inscribed on the agenda of most of the meetings of the statutory organs of the 6 Cultures Conventions. Some of you were in the same room here when I presented this item to the 1970 Convention and to the ICP-RCP. But I would like to inform you that we received another letter from the President of the General Conference dated 17th of October 2016 and recalling Resolution 101 of the last General Conference on this matter. And he informs that the working group agreed that the summary of main factual information on intergovernmental programs, committees and organs would allow member states to hold effective deliberations on their governance. And in this regard, he requested that we could present to him the results of the deliberations by 5th December 2016. So in this regard, the document presents the status of the implementation of the recommendations that are of direct relevance to the World Heritage governing bodies, as well as general recommendations of relevance to all governing bodies of the Culture Conventions. And we also provide comments that the committee may wish to take into consideration on this matter in its decision on the reporting to the open-ended working group on governance as requested by the General Conference. So, Madam Chair, in practice this means after your deliberations we will send a letter back to the President of the General Conference with your deliberations. The draft decision for the COM 13B can be found on page 5 in the English version and 5 and 6 in the French version. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments on this matter? Cuba. Representative of Cuba, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je voudrais remercier le secrétariat pour l'information qu'il vient de donner. Mais c'est une question que nous savons suivre d'une façon très particulière dans tous les contextes de l'UNESCO. Et c'est bien que justement la résolution 101 de la conférence générale a demandé au groupe de travail commencer à travailler dans les organes principaux de l'UNESCO les questions de gouvernance et a demandé à partir du paragraphe 5 de sa résolution demander à les organes de convention et des autres organes de l'UNESCO commencer à travailler ces questions. Le problème de gouvernance, c'est une question très générale et c'est une question qui doit être examinée à l'intérieur aussi de l'Assemblée générale de la Convention. Je sais bien que les groupes de travail à l'intérieur de ces comités, ils donnent quelques suivres à ce sujet. Il y a beaucoup de débats dans ce sens, mais à notre point de vue, c'est un sujet qui doit être élevé à l'Assemblée générale. Parce que si bien la résolution 101 demande à ces organes de faire un effort pour présenter les commentaires dans cette année, le 2017, c'est aussi une année qu'il va commencer à continuer à travailler ce sujet. Il y a beaucoup d'organes à l'UNESCO, subsidiaires, pas seulement des conventions comme le PHI et des autres organes, qui ne peuvent pas se réunir pendant le 2016. Il doit se réunir dans le 2017. Pour ça, c'est une recommandation. Il n'y a pas aucune urgence d'envoyer le plus vite possible une recommandation au groupe de travail, parce qu'en ce moment, le groupe de travail se concentre dans le conseil exécutif et dans la conférence générale. Et pour les prochaines années, sera qu'on commence à travailler des autres organes. Ça, c'est notre position. On pense que c'est un sujet qui doit être soumettre à l'Assemblée générale pour vraiment faire un débat très complet, parce que le comité peut examiner la gouvernance du comité, mais c'est l'Assemblée, l'organe plus démocratique, participatif, et les sujets, et c'est de toute pertinence qui s'aborde dans ce sens. Merci, Madame.
Thank you very much. I would like now to give the floor to the representative of Finland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Finland is pleased to note that the World Heritage Committee is one of the most active governing bodies of UNESCO in addressing the question of governance and in trying to improve its working methods. Even in this session, within the item 15 on budget, we tackle again the question of length and frequency of the committee sessions and the alarming work burden of the Secretariat. Furthermore, constantly evolving operational guidelines as well as the new process for creating a new policy compendium document show the determination of the committee to enhance its activities and to improve the quality of its work. However, the improvement of the governance is an ongoing process and the discussion needs to be continued even in the future. For example, the enhanced cooperation between UNESCO's cultural conventions has more to offer when transformed to real everyday discussion, doing and working together. Likewise, the ongoing cooperation with other biodiversity conventions to enhance synergies is an important step to the right direction. Efficient use of the upstream process, especially targeted for developing and underrepresented countries, can also contribute to a smoother conduct of business in the committee and to the credibility of the convention. We also need to embrace the conservation at the heart of the convention and focus our attention to ensuring state of conservation of the sites through credible, the so-called SOS, state of conservation process, and also by only approving nominations that meet the criteria in order to avoid them coming back for SOS process the following year. Finally, it is important that all necessary stakeholders are heard properly when we discuss governance, not only the state parties, but also the advisory bodies and other relevant stakeholders of the civil society that do share the genuine interest for safeguarding our common heritage. Finland supports the draft resolution. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I would like now to invite the representative of Philippines to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We attach importance to ongoing discussions on how to improve the system-wide governance and working methods of the governing bodies of UNESCO. Our delegation co-chairs the subgroups of the Working Group on Governance. We take note of the report under this item. We believe that the issue of governance goes beyond the report of the external auditor. Our committee has already done substantial work, mainly through its ad hoc working group over the last 2 years, to improve governance and decision-making. This progress can be transmitted to the President of the General Conference and the working group. The ad hoc working group has been a good mechanism also to prepare for committee sessions and its extension and ability to hold open-ended consultations for greater participation of all committee members and state parties can be preferred as a good practice that other intergovernmental bodies could consider. We have submitted amendments to the draft decision in this regard. One governance issue that we would like to raise is the committee's relationship with the Category 2 centers. How can we enhance coordination and coherence of efforts in line with the C5 and the Convention's strategic objectives? Is there a form of dialogue and consultation between the committee and the Category 2 centers? We also would like to suggest that the annual meeting of the chairs of the cultural conventions is made more interactive with the possibility of the chairs to come up with concrete strategic recommendations to develop greater synergies and cooperation between the cultural conventions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very much. Now I would like to invite the director of the center to respond to some of the issues that have been raised during the debate. You are welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just very briefly to comment on some of the points. I take note that Cuba wishes that we add the item to the General Assembly, which takes place at the end of the General Conference next year. So that means that is not a reporting back to the General Conference. So that's a reporting which goes then further into the working group, if I understand correctly. Then there were a number of other comments. If I understand correctly, the Philippines wishes us in the letter, which we need to write to the working group, which was formally requested with 2 letters from the President of the General Conference, with a deadline of 5 December, not only to present the deliberations you just had here, but also to add the report of the ad hoc working group, if I understand correctly. So the Philippines is nodding. So we will do that. In terms of the Category 2 centers, I think that is a very important point. We have end of November, the next meeting of all Category 2 centers related to World Heritage. They meet in India, in Dehradun, and I think it's a very important point which we will give back to that meeting, and in terms of governance and in terms of support of the World Heritage Convention, we will do the same maybe with the university chairs, who should also better support the World Heritage Convention. And finally, the last meeting of the chairpersons of the culture conventions took place on the 26th of September here in this room. And that meeting had a very specific purpose to discuss the issues in terms of dealing with cultural heritage and heritage in general in times of conflict, but also the SDGs. So there were these 2 topics. We would be very happy to take on any other topics for the meeting of the chairpersons. But I would like to make you aware that not all committees agree that the chairpersons can make proposals. So I was sitting in especially the 2005 committee meeting, where there was a request from some members that the chairperson cannot represent the committee. So which was a little bit, which is not the case for this convention, because your chairperson always represents the committee and can transmit any deliberations from you to meetings of the chairpersons. But there is a formal decision that every year a meeting of chairpersons need to take place, and I think it's a very good suggestion. With that, Madam Chair, I think I have covered most of the items. I also can assure the delegation of Finland that there is an increased synergy not only among the culture conventions, but also among the biodiversity conventions, and for the first time in the history, the 7 secretaries of the biodiversity-related conventions traveled with the bureau of each of these conventions to Geneva, and we had this consultation, which is very important in terms of the SDGs. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Director. I would like to invite the representative of Cuba. You have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je voudrais remercier les explications qui viennent de donner les secrétariats. Et dans ce cas, je voudrais souligner quelque chose. C'est bien que les réunions des présidents du comité, c'est un espace opportun pour parler, mais le débat de la gouvernance, c'est un débat intergouvernemental. Pour ça, c'est que l'Assemblée générale, c'est le forum approprié pour parler pas seulement de la gouvernance du comité, sinon aussi de la gouvernance qui comprend l'Assemblée. Parce qu'il y a beaucoup de limitations, à partir de notre point de vue, que l'Assemblée, c'est un espace formel et qu'on prend des décisions qui sont déjà adoptées. Et c'est cette Assemblée qui est le plus importante, fait faire l'élection du membre du comité. Et ça, c'est un débat que nous devons mettre à l'intérieur de l'Assemblée. Ça ne veut dire qu'on ne peut pas présenter les rapports de ces groupes de travail parce que normalement, la majorité des organes de l'UNESCO ont déjà commencé le débat de la gouvernance et le processus, il s'est rencontré les recommandations de l'audit et tout comme ça. Je voudrais souligner d'autres choses, que de toutes les recommandations de l'audit, seulement les conférences générales ont adopté 3 recommandations. C'est une question qui que je pense qu'il manque un peu dans les rapports, fait la contextualisation du débat qu'il y a à l'intérieur de la conférence générale, parce que toutes les recommandations ne sont pas adoptées, parce qu'il y a beaucoup d'incongruences, et pour ça, que c'est l'origine de ce groupe qui va parler de la gouvernance. Et on avait demandé que ce débat peut être à l'intérieur de tous les organes, parce que le groupe de travail de la conférence générale ne peut réfléchir mieux que le comité ou l'Assemblée des patrimoines sur ces mêmes problèmes. Ça, c'est notre point de vue. Merci, Madame.
Okay, thank you very much. You are making very valid issue. You are raising very valid issues, and the Secretariat is in agreement with that. I would like to invite the representative from Portugal to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We have asked for the floor for some time, and we will have had preferred intervening before the director have given very thorough explanations. But anyway, let me use this opportunity to make general comments. Let me first start by saying that we are very grateful to the World Heritage Center for all efforts implemented over the last couple of years to reform its working methods in order to ensure greater effectiveness and efficiency in governance and to help improving strategic decision-making in collaboration with state parties. As it was already referred, the 38th session of the General Conference has indeed adopted Resolution 38C101, which is the backbone for our work towards further improving the governance of UNESCO, which results shall be presented to the next session of the General Conference next year. We welcome the good discussions that have already taken place so far in the meetings held and praise the chair and the co-chairs for their able leadership and full engagement. As the open-ended working group on governance should also address governance issues related to intergovernmental programs, committees and organs of the Convention early next year, and although we understand the usefulness of having the Assembly of States Parties also involved in this exercise, we deem very much necessary for this committee to provide input to such discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Portugal. That was an oversight on our part. We are sorry for that. Now I would like to take this opportunity to invite IUCN to take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Just to make two remarks that follow on from the Director of the World Heritage Centre's responses to the comments from Philippines and from Finland. So first to note, I think for the Category 2 Centre suggestion, it's a very good idea, and there is already integration to some extent in item 6 of the committee's business, and it is an area where perhaps item 10, the regional reports, I think all of the chiefs of units in the centre referred to collaborations with the Category 2 centres, but perhaps that's a place where the Category 2 centres could themselves join in a discussion. So just two suggestions on that, and I think there's a lot of very rich work going on, including in the case of IUCN as well with the centres, for instance, in the Arab states, with the African World Heritage Fund and with the WITRAP Centre for Asia Pacific that we could draw out further in that item. And the second comment, just to pick up on the point on synergies, so tomorrow in item 7 we could also mention that we have completed, as previously reported to the committee, a piece of work looking at the synergies between the site-based conventions and programs of UNESCO, that is the World Heritage Convention, the Biosphere Reserves Programme and the Global Geoparks Programme, and also the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. And there's a report that's just been completed and launched at the World Conservation Congress looking at the very significant overlaps there are between sites recognised under more than one of those programs and the opportunities to get synergy from those different programs. So we'll provide the committee with copies of that new document tomorrow morning, and we'll refer to it in the introduction also to the closing of item 7. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, IUCN, for your remarks. I don't see anybody else who wants to take the floor, so we'll proceed to the draft decision. Rapporteur.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As was raised by the distinguished ambassador of the Philippines, they have actually submitted an amendment reflecting their opinion regarding the works of the ad hoc working group. And these amendments take place in paragraphs 5 and 6 of the original draft decision. Paragraph 5 now reads, takes note of the efforts and steps already undertaken, especially through its ad hoc working group, which it considers as a good practice that enhances strategic decision-making and participation of states parties, with a view to improve and streamline the working methods of the governing bodies of the 1972 Convention in line with General Conference Resolution 38C-101. We move along to paragraph 6, which reads, decides to transmit, as requested, document WHC 1640-13B, as well as relevant outcomes of its ad hoc working group and this decision to the chairperson of the open-ended working group on the governance procedures and working methods of the governing bodies. And these are the only amendments so far proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rapporteur. Now let us examine item 5. Are there any comments? Cuba, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. On propose comme méthode de travail commencer pour le paragraphe 1, pas pour le paragraphe 5, parce qu'il y a quelque chose qu'on doit rajouter dans ces projets de décision, comme la résolution de la conférence générale. On doit prendre note de ces références. Merci.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Cuba, can you tell us what you want to take note of, on if there is anything? Yes.
Et je voudrais rajouter dans le paragraphe 1 la résolution 38C-101 de la conférence générale. Et parce que le nom de ce point dans l'ordre du jour doit figurer comme les suivre de ces recommandations, pas les recommandations de l'audit externe. C'est un problème que nous avons présenté dans tous les organes. Mais on voudrait rajouter ça, la résolution 38C-101 de la conférence générale. Merci.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that amendment. Cuba? Members? Philippines?
Yes, Madam Chair, we support the proposal of Cuba under this paragraph. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippines. There are no any other. Portugal?
Thank you very much. We totally agree with the spirit of the recommendation put forward by Cuba. We were just wondering if it wouldn't be more exact saying having examined document and recalling resolution 38C-100. But we can go along with
Thank you, Portugal. So item 1 has been amended. Any other who wants to take the floor? Any other member? No? Peru?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to express the support of Peru, actually, to that proposal presented by Cuba. Thank you.
Thank you, Peru. Any other member wants to take the floor? So item 1 is amended. We adopt item 1. We proceed. Let us go to the, yes, Rapporteur, let's take the floor.
Yes, just if we have adopted paragraph 1 as amended, can we say also recalling in para 2?
So there is a minor amendment for item 2. If there are no comments, we adopt item 2. I think we can proceed to item 3. We adopt item 3. Item 4. I see none. We adopt item 4. Item 5 is proposed amendments from Philippines. Any comments? Peru?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to express actually our support actually to the proposal presented by Philippines in paragraph 5 and 6. Thank you.
Any other comments on item 5? I see none. We adopt item 5. Item 6, there are also proposed amendments from Philippines and Peru. Cuba, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. À teneur de la discussion et des commentaires que nous avons mettre pendant les débats, on pense qu'on doit mettre un paragraphe, un nouvel paragraphe entre les 5 et les 6 qui dit que passe ce sujet à la conférence générale avant de passer au paragraphe 6. Sinon, après, mais je pense que peut-être en action, je voudrais savoir l'opinion de le secrétariat. Et on doit mettre, parce qu'on ne peut pas limiter les débats seulement à les rapports ni à la décision de Doha. On doit mettre ces débats ouverts sur les propositions des grands rapports de l'audit du commissaire aux comptes et aussi sur la réflexion qui peut surgir dans l'Assemblée sur les méthodes de travail, la relation entre les organes. Pas seulement dans les rapports de ces groupes de travail très pertinents, mais qui analysent la réalité à l'intérieur du comité. Notre proposition, c'est qu'entre les 5 ou les 6, on peut mettre ces références ou après, comme la secrétariat considère plus pertinent. Mais on voudrait qu'il reste dans la résolution. Merci.
Thank you, Cuba. I invite the Secretariat to respond to that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I understand correctly, Cuba wishes to transmit the document to or inscribe an item at the General Assembly of States Parties. That's it?
On voudrait soumettre à l'Assemblée les rapports du groupe de travail et aussi les sujets d'un débat ouvert, parce que c'est un débat intergouvernemental. Et dans d'autres organes, nous avons fait la même chose, au PHI, au COI. Il y a un processus déjà de révision à l'intérieur de ces organes et à partir de ces résolutions, comme vous pouvez regarder, c'est une décision avant, en Doha, après, c'est la conférence générale à parler de ça, pour pouvoir harmoniser les deux processus. Pour ça, c'est les deux questions. Merci.
Thank you. Yes, Secretary.
Thank you very much. That means you wish to recommend or to wish to propose an item, a new item to the General Assembly of State Parties. So that's your proposal for a new paragraph between 5 and 6. Proposes to inscribe an item or Philippines. I think the Philippines will have you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. And I think the proposal of the distinguished delegate of Cuba is no problem because all governing bodies have been by the President of the General Conference to inscribe this item of governance on their agendas and to provide inputs to the President of the General Conference. The only thing is that his letter that went out recently is requesting all governing bodies to submit inputs by December this year. But that's, in a way, well, the reality and the objective timeline. But there's nothing, I think, harmful to have the General Assembly, again, talk about governance at its next assembly. So I don't see any problem, I think, with the proposal. It's just the understanding that both the committee as well as the General Assembly are expected to provide inputs to the working group. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Cuba, Portugal? You have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nous voudrions soutenir justement cette, comment nous aussi on voit ce processus, effectivement, tout en étant d'accord avec l'importance que l'Assemblée des États parties aussi puisse approcher ce point. Il est également important que ce comité soumette aussi ses recommandations dans le cadre de cet exercice de la gouvernance. Pour nous, ça aussi, c'est important. C'est un peu le travail aussi qu'on est en train de faire, sans bien sûr mettre en cause le travail de l'Assemblée des États parties le moment venu. Merci.
Thank you. Thank you. Peru, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We just considered that the idea of Cuba of introducing a new paragraph is adequate, and we want to also to support all the previous reason explained
by Philippines and Portugal about why it's important to establish this paragraph 2, and also there's not a problem to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. So there is general agreement in the room on this proposal from Cuba. So if we can have the text to add into item 6, new 6. Yes, Cuba? The rapporteur.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've tried to incorporate, but I would like to ask committee members to come in to find the right wording, because we're just working on this very impromptu. It's to propose to inscribe an agenda item. Proposes to inscribe in recommends. Recommends the General Assembly to inscribe a new agenda item discussing matters on governance. Governance. At its next session. Would the delegate of Cuba also like to add at the end, taking into account the discussions? No? That's all right? Okay.
Okay. So we have new item 6, members. If I see nobody wants to take the floor, so we adopt new item 6 as proposed by Cuba. Let us proceed to item 7, proposed amendment from Philippines, Turkey, and Peru. Cuba.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je voudrais un peu pour compris, je comprends l'intention et on soutient l'intention de la Philippine, la Turquie et le Pérou dans ces points de soumettre à la prochaine session au président du groupe de travail de la gouvernance les résultats du groupe de travail. Mais on doit dire que ce sont conclusions préliminaires parce que normalement chaque organe chaque convention, il va envoyer un rapport. Et si on envoie seulement les résultats du comité et pas du débat qui va mettre l'Assemblée, parce que c'est vrai que l'Assemblée, c'est après de la prochaine conférence générale. Pour ça, on doit dire que si les secrétariats me permettent de finaliser mon idée, des conclusions préliminaires des groupes de travail, d'une façon qui donne la possibilité que ce n'est pas le résultat final de le processus, parce qu'après de la conférence générale, ce qui sera la prochaine assemblée générale. L'idée, c'est pouvoir corriger ces précisions. Merci.
Okay. I would like to respond to that.
Madam Chair, it's just to be very clear about this. This decision is the decision of the World Heritage Committee. The committee may have different deliberations than the General Assembly, so each body can submit its deliberations. So what we do now, this document 13B goes with a letter back to the chairperson of the group. This may be preliminary because the committee at its next session will look at it, but the one of the General Assembly will go separately, if I understand correctly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Director. I see Cuba. You want to take the floor again?
Oui, je comprends le point de vue que Madame la Présidente et le secrétaire général vient de nous expliquer, mais les conventions de patrimoine, ils vont envoyer 2 rapports parce que normalement, l'organe, tous les organes subsidiaires des conventions, ils mettent un rapport général de tous ces organes, pas séparés. Ça, c'est le point qu'on fera à la convention de patrimoine. Parce que normalement, je vais vous donner l'exemple de la COI, il y a un conseil exécutif, mais il y a une assemblée. Il va présenter un rapport général de tous les mécanismes, parce qu'on ne peut pas voir d'une façon différente les comités et l'assemblée, parce que justement, c'est la gouvernance, c'est la subordination des organes, la relation entre les organes. Je ne sais pas si c'est convenient. Je vais faire le que dit le consensus, mais ça, c'est un point de logique. On peut pas, c'est la convention qui va donner ce rapport de gouvernance. Et le comité, ce n'est pas complètement séparé, de la convention. Si on va donner deux rapports, pas de problème. Un dans le 2017 et d'autres si continue le groupe de travail, mais normalement, ce n'est pas la façon qui a fait des autres organes, qui présentent un rapport général de les relations de tous ces organes. Merci.
Thank you, Cuba. I would like to give the floor to Portugal. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and we fully understand what our distinguished colleague of Cuba mentioned, and of course we would have preferred to have a comprehensive approach, a comprehensive document, because I think we are having a comprehensive approach in this. But we have to take into account that we have a slightly challenging calendar with the date which is set for the Assembly of the State Parties. And at the same time, we have to follow the recommendations by the resolution 1 of the General Conference and what the President of the governance group has requested to the member states. So we see it very perfectly in accordance that we have the committee providing its recommendations. Not preventing then, when the time comes, the Assembly of the State Parties also taking into account also the recommendation of the committee, but if so it wishes, going beyond the recommendations by the committee. But we have a calendar that we have to try to abide by, and therefore it is recommendable that the committee also provides and gives its contribution to this overall exercise. Thank you very much.
I now give the floor to the representative of Philippines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very briefly, and to echo what our distinguished colleague from Portugal said, that there's a strict deadline, so to speak, that the President of the General Conference requested all governing bodies to submit their responses by December this year. But we also share the views of Cuba that there is a quest for greater coherence and rationale in the entire system. Therefore, the open-ended working group precisely is looking at all the inputs that the governing bodies will submit, and also in an open-ended and transparent manner try to seek better rationality and coherence of the governing working methods of all the governing bodies. So I think the proposals are not separate from each other, and they should be seen as in a kind of continuum where the working group will take on board all of the comments of the governing bodies, and if the General Assembly so wishes, it can also comment again after the General Conference. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we can. Any other comments before we proceed with this particular item? If not, let us examine item 7 in view of these issues that have been raised. Yes, Philippines?
Just on items on paragraph 7, Madam Chairperson, we would prefer that preliminary not be included because, in a way, the ad hoc working group has completed its work for this year, and it's the work that we have completed this year that we'd like to transmit. Although the working group may be extended at this session, that is still a prospective work. So we would prefer just outcomes if possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippines. So we delete preliminary. Rapporteur?
Yes, preliminary was actually inserted in based on the comments made by the delegate of Cuba, but if she's okay with deleting the word preliminary, as you can see on the screen, it's already been stricken out.
Thank you. Cuba?
Merci, Madame la Présidente. On peut accepter la proposition, on va soumettre par le consensus, mais c'est très important que dans votre rapport compte que c'est un processus qui doit se faire d'une façon intégrale. Il n'y a pas de problème s'il va envoyer cette information, mais les recommandations du président du working group, c'est d'une façon indicative, parce qu'il y a des organes à l'UNESCO qui ne pourraient pas se réunir avant de ces dates. C'est une question que c'est très important de mettre clair. On va soutenir et la proposition des Philippines, on va aller avec le consensus, mais c'est très important que tout le monde soit clair que c'est une recommandation d'une façon indicative. Ce n'est pas obligatoire de répondre avant ces dates à le président parce qu'il y a des organes de l'UNESCO qui, par un problème de calendrier, on ne peut pas donner la réponse avant de ces dates. Merci.
Okay. Thank you very much, Cuba. I would like now to invite the representative of Portugal to take the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Non, juste pour remercier Cuba de se rallier à la proposition initiale qui a été présentée par nos collègues, par nos pays, par Philippines, Turquie et Pérou, mais aussi et surtout appuyer ce que la déléguée de Cuba a dit, qu'il est important effectivement que ce qui a été partagé lors de cette discussion, notamment sur le caractère intégré de cet exercice, figure effectivement dans les summary records, excusez-moi, le mot en français m'échappe, de cette réunion. Merci.
Okay, thank you very much. I see no more comments. I think we have reached consensus on item 7. Oh, Cuba, you want to take the floor again? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. Okay. No? Oh, okay. So we adopt item 7. Okay, let us proceed. So, any other? If not, we adopt the entire draft decision for TCOM 13B as amended. Thank you very much. Now we proceed to item 16.
No, we cannot.
We cannot? No, until the end.
Give her the floor.
Do we proceed with this? No? Okay. I think we got to the end of our meeting today. Is there anything else?
Yes, I will make announcements. So you close the session, but you give me the floor for announcements.
Okay. So we have come to the end of the items that we're supposed to deliberate this morning. So now I would like to take this opportunity to give the floor to the director of the center to give some few announcements. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So this afternoon we commence with item 16, other business, and item 17. As the chairperson discussed this morning with you in the bureau, we will proceed with the election of the vice chairpersons and the rapporteurs. So I hope, I'm looking at the Philippines, we will get a vice chair from the Asia Pacific group to be announced then. And then if we are a little bit earlier this afternoon, we could theoretically start the working group operational guidelines a little bit earlier, but we announced this when we meet again at 3 o'clock. Now at 2 o'clock, from 2 to 3, we have the working group of the budget under your vice chairpersonship, Madam Chair. So I hope you have a good attendance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I declare that this session has been closed. We'll resume again at what time?
At 3.
At 3 o'clock.